Hey everyone, welcome to the Cybercram YouTube channel. In this video I'm going to discuss interview tips for a cybersecurity interview. So as for my background, I'm the Chief Information Security Officer at a well-known university in the USA. That means I'm the hiring manager also for my team, so I've got to conduct several cybersecurity interviews periodically, so I've got a lot of experience in this area. I've got a BS in computer science and also hold an MBA. As for certifications, I've got the CISSP and I'm also a holder of the GIAC Certified Enterprise Defender and GIAC Security Essentials certifications. The first interview question I would pose to somebody I'm interviewing is more of a behavioral question. Describe a challenging interpersonal situation, how you resolve the situation. You might be surprised here that I'm not asking or starting with a technical question, but really one of my primary concerns when hiring somebody is, how well do they fit on my team? Can they get along well with me? Can they get along well with teammates? Can I trust them with customers? So depending on your answer to this question, I would really look to rate your communication. Again, how do you communicate with your supervisor and leadership team? How do you communicate with others on the team and with clients? This can really display hopefully a high level of emotional maturity or a low level. And I certainly want somebody on my team who's got a high level of emotional maturity. Another quality I look for is that of ownership. If there's an interpersonal challenge with somebody, to what extent does the applicant own their own behavior, their own flaws, and own the situation? A red flag for me is somebody who's going to point the finger at the other party and blame them for whatever situation there is, whatever challenge there is. I'd really ideally like to see an applicant who owns the situation, owns their own flaws if there are any present there in the situation, but also owns that this client, especially internal client or teammate, is somebody on their own team and aiming at the same goal. As for the second interview question, this is certainly more of a technical question. Describe a technical challenge you face and how you resolve the situation. And again, there is a behavioral component to this. I think there is an element of ownership here where I want to see if there are mistakes present, that the applicant can own them. From my personal experience, if I were to answer this question, I would answer it saying an example of a mistake I made. Several years ago, back in my role as a security engineer, I made the mistake of releasing a Windows 7 service pack during business hours at 10 a.m. roughly in the morning. And of course, this caused interruptions and an increased spike of help desk calls. So then as a hiring manager, you would ask a question of, so what did you learn and how do you respond? My response would be, okay, now I'm more measured with the maintenance I do on production systems during the day. I try to do it, in fact, during off hours. If I must perform maintenance on production systems during the day, I make sure to measure twice and cut once. As for the third interview question, I would pose something more technical, and this is certainly more of an example question. It doesn't have to be, my real question in real life wouldn't necessarily just be relegated to SMBV1, but if I'm interviewing for a security admin or engineer role, a great question would be, a system on your network runs SMBV1. How do you mitigate the risk posed by SMBV1? And really the qualities I look for here are a layered approach to security, precision of language, as both these really give me an idea of how experienced this person is in security and how well they know the subject matter. So here, for instance, you could say, a great answer would be, well, disable SMBV1 on the vulnerable system. That's a terrific answer because that would eliminate the risk. Another answer would be, well, you could block SMBV1 at the host-based firewall. Yet another layer would be blocking SMBV1 at the network-based firewall. A fourth answer could be, and a fourth addition, I should say, could be to detect SMBV1 at the IDS. That way you're alerted to SMBV1. And again, this really, for me, it really tries to challenge the person to think in the given situation about a scenario. But then it also gives me visibility into seeing, okay, does this person have a layered approach to security and can they communicate that? As for my recommendations for your interview, I would say make sure you do your homework, know the company you're interviewing with, and see if you can determine what systems and technologies they run by looking through the job description or job posting. If they list Palo Alto on the job description, go and research Palo Alto and study up. If they know Windows, go and research it and study up. If you have enough time, get certified. Get an in-depth knowledge. That way, whenever you're interviewed, you can display some depth there and try to impress the interviewers. One example I've got from my personal history is that of interviewing for my first security admin role. I was asked a question about Active Directory, and going into the interview, I knew this organization ran Windows, ran Active Directory. So I believe the question was related to promoting a domain controller. And in my preparation, I made sure to know how to promote a domain controller, not just from the GUI, but also from the command line. And I could tell when I responded that way in the interviewer, the hiring managers were impressed. Make sure you're honest in the interview. If you don't know a question, or if you only know it to maybe a shallow depth or a modest depth, communicate that and share that. One of the things I see frequently is that if somebody doesn't have an answer to a question, they'll often talk around it or be really verbose or loquacious about it. Try to avoid that. Try to avoid talking too much if you don't know, or talking your way out of a question if you don't know it. And again, make sure you prepare for both the technical and behavioral aspects of the interview. The hiring manager wants to make sure you fit in on the team. And of course, they want to make sure that you're a technical fit, depending on to what degree of position you're in, if it's a beginner position or a more advanced position. If this video was helpful to you, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll talk to you in the next video.